So hello everybody. Some more people showed up. Let's see. How
Hello.
you doing?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you for
Great.
coming, even though of course Tina that is, huh?
Yes.
Hi, even though it's a holiday, but I figured if we get into it a little bit, we don't have to do much. I just want you guys also to be familiar, know what I'm expecting, or what have ability to ask questions. First of all, I'm trying to be always available for you. So anything you have, text me. The text number you have, the 510-387-2946 is my phone, and I'm always here. If I don't text you back, it's either that I'm overwhelmed, and just text me again. Um, for the urgency, because I got this semester, I got 150 of you guys, so it's going to be a very large group, but it's very exciting. And I think the way it's set up, we have plenty of time together. Also, we're back in person. Also now fully, one time a week. So yeah, but feel free to reach out to me, and don't hesitate. Even if it's in the middle of the night, if I don't want it, I'll put the phone away and I'll text you in the morning back. But I don't want you to feel anxiety about this online, particularly the online part of the class, because everything is sort of written down and questions can come up. And what we don't want is that then translates into people getting anxious. There is always a way. I've been doing this class for many years now. Let me make sure I don't miss somebody's text. That is a problem here. Okay, that's good. Okay, always reach out in the Zoom. Always interrupt me if you have a question. Don't worry about holding up hands. I'm doing this all by myself, and we're working on the page where I'm in, and I can't go back and forth. So just say stop, I need to talk or something. That's totally okay in this. The thing you hear in the background is my little dog or my big dog. Oh, you can't see him. Of course you can't see him because I got the mountains in the background. Okay. Any questions as we start? Well, first, everybody get into Canvas. Anybody good with that?
Going to check after this meeting.
Okay. As we speak about Canvas, the app is really great. The Canvas app is really a great app. So if you have a smartphone, which probably you do at this point, that the app is very useful. I find it very useful also, well, for me, of course, to grade, but it's very convenient. Also, if you need to upload pictures or things like that, it's very helpful. A lot of the activities we do, a lot of them when we talk about anatomy terms, is coloring and labeling, and those things you can do multiple ways. Some of that is annotation if you want. If you have a tablet, you can do it right in the tablet with your pencil, but you don't have to. You can draw your own picture, you can print it out. I have all these different ways of doing it. Some people even make videos or things like that. But use the app or try out the app. It's very versatile, especially if you combine it with using the desktop as well. Good. So yeah, make sure you can get in. And so when you get into Canvas, let me actually get into the thing right here. Hold on. And again, any questions, interrupt me. Otherwise, I'm just going to assume we've been doing this for many years together and you're all good with it. And I'll go right into the material. And since we're going to be in class together, I'm going to be plenty of time introducing myself and talking about my background and things. But the accent you hear is a Swiss accent. So if you can't understand something because it's a little thick, interrupt me again and tell me to be clearer. I try my best, but it's that the accent doesn't go away. So if you get into the Canvas homepage of our class, you're going to get to this picture here, and you can click on multiple places. You click here to get some contact info. You can click here to get into the course material. Here goes right to the syllabus. I have some study tools. We'll talk about that. The study group Zoom link is really not relevant anymore since we're back in class. We mostly meet in class once a week, but it's still there in case. And so when you get into so this is the home page. And from there, you usually get into the material right through here, or on the left-hand panel, you can get into the modules. And the chapters are named modules in this situation here, in this program. So if you click on that, you get multiple modules opening up. So the first is a learning tool module. I will go through. Then we have a class orientation. If you click on that arrow, it goes down and it opens. And then after that, we get into this weekly module situation here. And we have every week has a module, and I'll populate them as we get along, as we get through the weeks. I'll probably start opening more than one at a time. I just start with one. But when it says week 1, and we're going to have, I don't know, 16 or 17 weeks altogether, you get one of those weekly modules. And if you open that, inside you get the structure. There's an introduction. There's a learning structure. There's an applying. Those are activities. And then the applying and the lab are sort of combined together. And then we wrap it up the week with, what did you learn if you want to learn more? And we have a little questions and tip thing as well, a Padlet, if you're familiar with Padlets at this point. If not, don't worry. We'll do it as we get along, as we get into it. So that's how it's set up. And then inside there, you have the introduction, gives us learning objectives. What are we going to go through this week? After this week, you'll be able to do this and this and this. The assignments. The first week has a lot of small little assignments, so please don't freak out too much. Unfortunately, there is the online component. But I also want to make sure in this week, the first week, we have a thing like planning your studies and things like that. That is really more of a little reflection on when will I put time into this. Because in an anatomy class, we need to put a little time into the studies. And procrastination can be kind of a little bit of an enemy sometimes for us in this situation. So, but we'll go through those briefly in a minute, and so don't. Oh, sorry, that's my dog. Can you sit down? Oh, I don't know. These are a little bit restless. There he goes. And then what we do, the class, the way it's set up in the learning section, we're gonna have those videos that teach the material. The lecture portion of the class is sort of online, is a hybrid portion, a hybrid class, and so this is what we have here. We have these videos. I have two formats of the videos. I have it as a voiceover video that you have multiple parts. It tells you how many minutes it is right here, or right here as well. And then also I have a section, I have a set of videos where I talk in class that I've used to record before the pandemic. You see, this video is a whole class long. But some, and it's only one of them, but some students, some like the voiceover where I speak into the computer better, and some like the one in class better. It's the same material. Just check out which, what you like better and what works for you. And then underneath, I have sort of the main concepts spelled out with bullet points, and there's tabs that organize that, and has a few fundamental pictures. The text booklets are really where a lot of the pictures are in, and the multiple ways that I visualize it in those. And so then when you have gone through that learning, then you will have always a questions associated with that lecture. And then you go, look at that, access denied. Well, that's not good. Gotta look at that later. I'm sorry, the first week there's always goofy stuff that I goof off, or actually once in a while it is the program, but I will take credit for the goof offs. So we gotta do quiz 1. So these are actually technically called quizzes, but quizzes usually gives us a little bit of a oops thing. Let me make sure real quick why this isn't open. Oh yeah, look at that, because see this Peralta, they technically open it tomorrow. So I'm sorry, you can't take this lecture question today, but we can preview it here. So what I do, so this is just not your view, this is my view, but it's the same thing. So I can preview it to show you what I do in those questions. Because what I want to do is I want to teach you the material in in video format, and then have you go through the material again with describing things and then having a question associated with it. And so that way, every concept you get in a lecture and in a written format again, and then that sort of massages the material through your brain a little bit. It makes it anchor more and make it more understood. And so those questions, you can take them as many times as you want. And when you take it, then the right answer, if you didn't get it right, will show up, and you can take notes and learn it through that. And so this is sort of busy work, because what counts is the highest score. It doesn't all get them and then average them or anything. So this is really not, that's why I call them questions and not quizzes. The format of it is the same. The sub program inside this Canvas program is the same as the exams used to be, but now we do them in class, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. Anyway, but the other thing I've also done is in before we had the pandemic, I did solve the questions in a classroom setting with the class, and so I also posted those videos here that you can also look at those if you like. And don't even, and if you, let's say you don't understand the question, so I go through it again in a video. Some people actually also, they just watch the video and then take the quiz. I don't mind that, because what I need you to do is I need you to process the material in multiple different formats, and then you understand it, or at least the questions arise that then you can ask me. And we can make sure you understand it, and you get prepared also for the exams, of course. That's part of the whole thing. And then after you do those questions and the material gets sort of solidified, then I have first few chapters, I have discussions where a few concepts will retouch in a discussion format where you think about it and use your own words to explain it, or if you, and then, relate to other students, read some of their posts, and together you help each other understand it a little bit better. And then, this was actually the second week, so the first week is right here. So that's the discussion here. And then most of our chapters, weeks, have anatomy terms associated with it, since it's an anatomy class. And that's like, what's this called? What's that called? Kind of things. And then, what does the structure do? And in that, what I done is I created color and labeling exercises, activities. So what you do in there is you get these sheets of handouts, and you go through activities. The first one is a little bit different, but a lot of them is like, what is this called? And then you color it and you label it. A lot of that will be then, what are the terms of the heart? What is this muscle called? What is that muscle called? And so we process the anatomy terms again through with an activity like that, mostly coloring, labeling specific terms that I tell you and I give you, and then also sometimes describing the terms, what it means, or relating it, like what muscles is attached to what bony parts and so forth. And so then, through those processes, you pretty much get the material in your system. And those are activities that if you, let's say you don't get it right, or you miss something, you can always redo them. It's like the questions. You can make them and then resubmit them. Or in a discussion, let's say you don't reply to people and you need to reply to a couple, you don't get the full point value, but you then can reply and then you get the full point value. And so it's not a one time and you get a score and that's it. It's more like fetching points. And so that's how that kind of stuff works, how I get your material processed. And then of course we do have a few tests. So that's how we process most things during the week. And then we have one more thing that I add on, and those are health kits. And so those are activities. They're not every week, but those are things that tie the material together to the real life. So for example, when we talk about the skeletal system, I will have an activity of evaluating your workstation and look at the skeletal system in gravity of your own, and sort of help you with a few tricks to make sure. I'm a chiropractor. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that. I'm a bodywork chiropractor by profession. So I want to pass along some knowledge that I also got throughout the years and may help you. And so I'll integrate those things. Or for example, when we go through chemistry, which is week 2, we talk about biochemistry, like fats and carbs and things like that. And so what we do is we go to the food pantry and look at food labels and analyze a few food labels and learn how to read those. Of course, you might already know, but a lot of us, me included, we don't really end up looking at those things that carefully. So we have an activity around that. And so those are health kit activities. They sort of fluff off the material and make it real, bring it back to real life and make it applicable in that respect. And each week, what we end up doing at the end, we finish with a Padlet, and that looks like this. Let me just go through it since we're at here before, and then we go through the syllabus. Usually I do it the other way around. Sorry, I kind of went backwards here. And again, if you have any questions, just interrupt me. This is how a Padlet looks, and that's just at the end of the week. You go and click here and go like, oh, how was this week? I really learned a lot about this or that, and that made sense. Or, gee, I don't understand any of that. Can anybody help me? And then we have a little bit of a back and forth with that. It's sort of another place of where we can get help, or where we can have a reflection of how the class is going to finish up the week. I take these very seriously. I go on these and try to read all of them. And so it's a great way for me to get feedback, also to understand where are you in the class, how is it going. So, don't worry about me giving you, you can say what you want. I'm not grading you on that, but I use it as a feedback tool for me also to understand how to improve on the course. So that's what that is there. So that then actually, that then usually closes out the week. So let's actually now go to the beginning. And let me go back to the student view here. Sorry about that. I put in that the course is visible, but the activities aren't visible before tomorrow morning. But as soon as they're opening. Okay, so we'll go back to these modules here. This is the homepage modules here. So that was week 1. And now the first one is let's go to the orientation first. Hello. This is the orientation module, sort of giving us stuff we need to know. This is about me a little bit in there. There you go, when I had no beard. When I was young. And then after that is like how to connect with me. We don't actually need to go through all that because I could just tell you. And how I connect with you. So the best way to talk to me is via text. Because that's always in my pocket and I get it. Even though if I get a lot of them at once, then I might be a little behind. And if that's the case, just text me again. That tells me the urgency. So I'm not going to get annoyed at that. I just know, I have to address this. And as you know, first couple of weeks are usually crazy, and then it seizes up and eases in a little bit. And I also use that to best connect with you. The other thing, the second best, is over here. This is the inbox, the email, the Canvas email. I do read those. I do get a thing on my phone, an alert that it's there. It's not as easy as text, but it's the second place to go. And then from there, the school email is also, of course, one that I visit every other day or so. But then we can then from there take it further and say, let's text, and we can take a Zoom, or we can make a phone call depending on what the problem is, or if we need to do that, or if a text is sufficient. I'm here for you, so we have absolutely no problem doing extra Zooms or doing, some study sessions. Usually the class time is enough, but it doesn't have to be. I want to make sure you understand what we're talking about when you're not having sort of gaps in your knowledge. Then when we get here, we get to the syllabus. We also have a little orientation of Canvas. These are just some links for you guys. Studio is the way of making videos inside the Canvas software. A lot of the videos that I do is, you can just do them on the phone like a selfie video and then upload it on the Canvas app. That's one reason why the Canvas app is so great. But let's go to the syllabus real quick. In here, and again, questions, interrupt me, please. You can read this on your own. Actually, that's just a description. We're going to talk about the anatomy of the body, how the body works fundamentally. I want to teach you as real life based as possible so you can apply it. The reason why originally I started teaching this course, besides having a young family and a young practice and having to figure out how to make a living, was also to give students as much understanding of how the body works, even though we don't just maybe put all the names to them, the anatomy names, but I want to give you as much knowledge that you can be as good as a patient as possible, as good as a steward of your own body as possible. Because I do believe, and I think there's some merit to that, the modern medicine is very complex, makes it very challenging to understand what's what sometimes. And the more we know about our body, the more better decisions we can make, the better we understand what's working, what's not working, what's what, and what's what. Because there's a lot of arenas, for example, chronic pain, where that's what I work in. Modern medicine is not really doing that great of a job, and so the more we know, the more we understand, the better help we can get throughout the whole system, not just what necessarily the doctor gives you. And the other thing is this: research has shown that if we have a few patients that actually challenge the doctors a little bit and ask them some questions, the whole medicine gets better, because doctors are also humans and time is very scarce, and so we often don't explain. We often just give you this and then you apply it without much knowledge around it. And so that's another reason why I remember starting to go like, okay, the more I can educate people as well, the better for that. So anyway, that's sort of my mission. Here's a little bit about me, where I came from with my back pain and all that. Then we have, of course, we want to be inclusive. Diversity is very important to me because one of the reasons is we learn from each other when we come with diverse cultures and diverse ideas and perspectives. And we often, especially these times, but probably always, we have to make sure we don't get into a place where people sort of are exclusive, that we are inclusive, and we're working with each other and learn from each other. And so that's just what that really says. Should be self-understood, but we make sure we write it down. Online etiquette, the netiquette rules. There is a brief activity around that. We're meeting online. When we meet online, we make sure we talk nice to each other and all that. So just as a brief understanding of that. Then here's a little bit about the resources. We also have a page in the orientation module that has access to some of those from that angle. Then the class material is in the learning module. Let me go there in a minute. That's my text booklets. Actually, I can go there right now. So let's go there. So what I've done in this class is I've taught first, when I started, I taught Biol 20AB, which is a 1-year course of anatomy physiology. Then I went into Biol 2, which is the full anatomy course, the higher level. And then they asked me about 15 years ago, I know time goes really fast when you're an adult, watch out, to teach the introduction course, because it's a challenge to teach it in terms of you have people come from all different angles, and it's from that perspective need to be made as interesting as possible, and they thought I could do that. And so besides my own anatomy chiropractic education, then I had many years in getting these other classes taught or teaching these other classes. And I just learned over the years that the textbooks are for many people really a challenge. And the more I teach, the more it seems like more people don't appreciate the complicated text writing. And so what I did is I took the essences that I thought were important out of these multiple resources that I've taught from over the years, and made my own material and put them in my own booklets that are really, at the end of the day, picture booklets with a little bit of text, explaining the material. And so I made 6 out of them, because also the other thing I wanted to do is not have one big fat textbook, because I remember going around Lake Merritt when I was already teaching. My kids were already out of the house, but I saw this lady with a toddler on the playground with this big old fat anatomy book, trying to focus on the anatomy and looking at the toddler at the same time. I'm thinking that's not going to work out. And I asked her, and she's like, "No, it's not working out." And so that made me think. And so what I did with these, I made book versions that you can put in your pocket, and it's not just one big fat book. That number one, and then also I linked actually. I mean, you don't need that because you have Canvas, but I linked all the videos inside the booklet with barcodes to the videos. So you can be out and no matter hold your phone over a booklet and process the material as you are outside or wherever you are that way. And so so that's what I did with the material that came out of 6 booklets. And then I also created a set of all the anatomy and labeling coloring exercises, so you don't have to print them out, and a paper version of all the health kits as well. And so then I stuck it all together and made just one material package. And unfortunately, with this format, I basically have to print it at home, because you can't get the stuff done this way out in the field, or at least when I last checked, which was a couple years ago, I might need to go check again. I haven't really found anyone who can do it, so it's reasonably done. With all the collating, it gets way too expensive. And so I've just ended up doing my own production with it, and that's why it's just available on my end when I come to class. And I have to charge, of course, some money for it, so it's $100 altogether. And it's not absolutely necessary that you get it. It's not mandatory, but it does seem to be helpful and makes the whole class nice and smooth for the students' experience. And so that's why, I kind of go back and forth. At some point, I made it mandatory because it just makes a difference between who has it and who doesn't. But that was also online. So I have them throughout the semester. You're very welcome to just play with it and see what works for you. But that's what I recommend to really be a smooth class, and the reasons why I've just explained. So that's what my textbook material is. And so since we're here in the study tools, and again, interrupt me if you have questions, we also have a tab up here on tools to help your studies. And we have an activity with that in week 1. So what I have done is, because I have ADHD and all that kind of weird stuff, and it's a hard time for me to study without too much coffee on my side or something. And so and I realize a lot of us have never really thought about study tools or how to study. We've just kind of been squeezed through the system, and it doesn't necessarily work for all of us. And so I want to just talk a little bit about some learning styles, the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, although most of us seem to be heavily in kinesthetic, touching and feeling and applying things and thinking through how does this work in real life and that kind of stuff. Or coloring and labeling, that's already touching things. It's kinesthetic. And then I also talk briefly about, how much you retain depending on how you learn or what you do. Like, if you listen to me talking here, you can fall asleep and be zonked out. If I make you laugh, you might remember a little bit more, but I'm not sure which part. If you read a little bit more, because you can underline, you can go back, audio, visual, and so the more you do with things, the more active you engage in the material, the more retention you have. And so I want to just briefly touch on that and have you reflect a little bit. And of course, I try to set up the class that we do have a lot of that, as much active doing things as possible. And then I have a little TED talk that I'd like you to watch about creativity. Is a lot in there, but also about education. Because it's important that we keep it refocused on learning and not just education teaching. And I want us in this beginning week to reflect a little, because then we go more into our own studies. And when I look at our own studies, it's anatomy, it's physiology, it's concepts, how something works, and then the parts that make it work. And so we need to talk about both of those types of things. And so we can, and so I over the years figured, especially the terminology, but also the concepts work very well with flashcards. And so I want to go through a flashcard methodology that I've picked up early on in high school, actually, when I learned French, or when we had to learn French in Switzerland. And it was pretty grueling. That is a great technique that focuses on what you don't know and weeds out repeating the things you already know, and so you save time that way. And so I talk a little bit about that, and I talk a little bit about that, how the memorization process works, how neurons that we use repetitively, like path thoughts that we have repetitively, good or bad, or mathematical problems or feelings or whatever it is, but those get stronger because, and every thought has a neural pathway, has a nerve cell talk to other nerve cells. And the more a nerve cell talks to another nerve cell, the stronger that pathway gets. And so that's really the fundamental basis of learning. And so repetition is very important. But repetition where we have to search for something is very, very strongly building memory. And that's partly where the flashcards come in handy, because you can do them electronic. You don't have to do them in paper these days, because you ask a question and you give an answer to that. So you have to search for an answer in your brain, and that process hurts a little bit. So make sure you reward yourself later, but it really creates memory strongly. And so that's why I teach the flashcard system, sort of foundation behind it a little bit, because I do think it's very, very good for studies, especially these science things. And then this is just talking more about the system that focuses on stuff that we don't know. So the first thing, if you make flashcards, is you make it. That's learning. You write it in your own words. You draw a little picture. You cut out something, or however you need to do to explain something or label something. And then you have made that card, and then you test yourself a day later or so. Do I know what I've just done? And you say, oh yeah, look, I still remember it. And then you have some you remember and some you don't remember. And then you separate those. And the ones you do remember, you put in a different pile, because you don't necessarily need to repeat those again tomorrow, because you already know them. I mean, maybe you want to do it the second time so you make sure you still remember them. But you don't have to repeat those as frequently, because likely you remember them better than the ones you didn't remember. And so you put those that you did remember in a second, let's say in a box number 2, or on a clip number 2, or in a different part of the table. And then those you only repeat twice a week, every other day or every third day, maybe. And you still know, do you still know it the third day later? And if you still do it, you put it in the next pile. And on the next pile, then that one you just look at once a week. And if you still remember, that's great. You probably then remember it. You put it in another pile, the next pile, and then let's say that one you do a few times before the test, or you make sure you remember it still for the test. I don't usually use the 5th box, because I think 3 is pretty good. And then the trick about it is, though, if you don't remember a card as you go through this system, it goes right back to number 1, because obviously there was a little bit of a gap, and maybe it was a fluke that you remembered it the first time or something like that. But that way, you don't miss stuff that you need to know, because you have everything in a card, but you also don't go through the notepad and all your notes over and over again, and look at all the stuff you already know and waste your time on that stuff. Because and so that's why I like the system well, because it saves me time in the long run, actually. Do you have any questions to that, or any comments? It's been awfully quiet. I've been just talking here. No? Are you still here? Hello? Oh, I got a few of you. Good. All right, let's go back to this. again, interrupt me. So that's the class material. And then, then this is also linked for tutoring in case the school has tutoring. So we have an access point here to the tutoring place. I haven't updated that. So I hope I checked it. The link still works, but make sure if something shifts. And I keep an eye on too. So that's there. And then let's go back to the syllabus. Material, learning objectives. These, don't worry about these. These are just sort of like for the class itself when it was created. So yeah, we, dissect mammalian, blah, blah, blah. We're going to get through all of that in regular terminology. But then this is important. So this is where we talk about how to, the grade and all that. So I already kind of explained to you how the week works. So now we put some, this is all described here again. Let me make sure we have text, we have labeling exercises, health exercises. Oh, and then in the classroom, we also go, of course, through the anatomy stuff. We do a lot of three-dimensional stuff in there. We have the models. But we also dissect a few organs. We dissect a heart, a sheep heart, a sheep brain, a cow eyeball, and a sheep kidney. And so we do those dissections of the tissues, which is usually very helpful because we can feel how the different tissues feel. So that's kind of cool. So we also do that. So that's also going to be an activity. And then during the second half, I have a group project that we do, a pathology project, where we go through a disease of a group of 3 or 4 people, mostly 3 people, and then a disease of their choice, and you kind of research it a little bit and then talk to us a little bit. It still says here, make a group video, but that's going to be a class presentation at the end of the semester. I know it sounds, don't worry, I'll help you all around, and it's really an activity for to go, in college, you got to do presentations and stuff. So I want to make sure we do that even in this introduction class, because we can go through it together. And by then I can hold your hand a little bit if it's difficult to make a presentation or so, because I got a little bit experience in that. And it's usually a lot of fun, and we learn a lot from each other. Because the other reason why I'm doing this is because we learn of how does the body work over the first part or over the semester. And then I also want to bring to a little bit of times when the body doesn't work, the pathology parts of it. So that's what we do with that project. And then, of course, there is some tests. We haven't talked about the tests yet. The tests are 3 tests. They're all individual. So they're sections. So the first test is a multiple choice true false test that we do at about week 3 or 4. Let me see. We're going to do that test week 4, beginning of February. So the beginning is the first few chapters are sort of the chemistry stuff and the cells. And then we want to put that aside. And so we have an exam on that. And then we put that away and don't worry about that anymore. And then we talk about muscles and bones. And then we have a second test once we get through the muscles and bones. And that's a lab test where I put a label on a muscle and ask, what's that muscle called? And you have a list of terms and you choose from it of a list of terms. So we make it so, it's going to be okay. Usually people do really well on that test. And by the time we get to it, you're all prepared for it if you come to class. And then the last test the third test is the material from then forward through the semester. And that test is during finals week. And that's usually a combination of the multiple choice test part and then another lab where you how you have models and I give you a list of terms and you choose from that. But all of those things way ahead of time. And I even allow you to make some cheat sheets, but we'll talk about that later. And then all together, and there's a very detailed test review. So I'll go to that in a sec. And then we have the grade cutoff, what's in the grade. And so we have parts of the grade that are these questions, these initial concept discussions, and then the last portion, the Padlets. That's 30% of the grade. That's busy work. So that's work to you processing the material. So you should get all the 30% of that. I then have lab activities. We have the color labeling, health, dissections, the Well, that's already the practical projects is actually in there already. But mostly those are other 30%. And then the pathology projects is 10%. And so that gives us 70% of work that you should or you can, if you do it, get all the points on. And then we finish up with the three tests, and that's another 30%. And so then that's the stuff that you can't repeat. But it's my job to make you be very well prepared for this. And if you follow my lead, that's my job, then you should be okay. One of the things you have to do is to be in touch with me if things are hard and you need help. That's the most important things. If you fall behind, talk about falling behind. So late work. If you're a little late, I'm not usually having that much of a problem. However, it's hard to get the whole class and then be in the classroom, and some people are like, well, I haven't done any of that yet, because you're behind. And so I do have a late policy of 1% decrease in your score per day of being late up to 10 days. And so you're still, if you do everything on that and you can, make up work and send it in a couple times, you still can get 90%. And so that's still an A, but it burns a little bit. So you have a little bit of fire for you to make it on time. Now, if at the end of the day your late's going to cause a grade change and everything else looks great, I'm not going to, I'm going to take out the lates and give you the upper grade. So don't worry about that part. I'm not here to punish you, but I want everybody to be more or less in the same time frame. Again, a day or two, no big deal. Because what we do is when we do lab, we're going to have let's say we do the brain in the lecture the week, and then the next week we do the lab portion of it. So you've processed the material before we go to lab already. I had to learn that. That took me a semester. Good. Attendance policy. You got to show up. Don't miss more than 4 labs. Talk to me if there's a problem. Sorry, this is so small. But if you miss more than 4 in a row and I'm just not hearing from you, I kind of drop you from class. So make sure you talk to me. And then the course outline is right here. These are just the different weeks as we go through them and the dates associated with them. It's just some place where you can look back up. These are just the titles then of the whole modules, all of them. And a disclaimer, of course, something can go wrong and I make a mistake, and so we will make corrections. Good. Still no questions? Am I that good? I hope not. Okay. Well, interrupt me if you have. So finish. Yes. Yeah.
I have a question. I don't know if you said it already, but are tests online or are they hybrid?
The tests are in person.
Okay.
I know. I'm sorry. That's one
Oh, no,
thing.
that works a little better for me, actually.
Oh, good. I'm glad, because it's one thing we had to it's one thing that bite a little bit after the pandemic. But we'll make it work. So no, they are in person, yes. So that's very important that we communicate that many times, because it is. So week 1, you're welcome. Week 1, we do the questions and what we talked about, but we also want to have an activity on plan your studies, which I just want you to, think about when you're going to study for this stuff, because this is a big class. Right? Oh, gosh, I got to get out of here again. I'm sorry, this stuff is still not available because they didn't open the course. They should have opened that course. I just want you to think about, when you're going to study. It's a 4-unit class. You should be putting in about 8 hours of studying time somewhere, more or less. It depends a little bit on the week. But just have a little reflection on it and mark it down on a scribble paper or so. Take a picture, upload it, and that's all good enough for me. For that. I'm sorry. Let me go back to the student view, because it's just not. It's too many activities we don't do. Because I've taken some stuff out that, like the online netiquette, we're not going to do that. We meet in class. But then the questions I already talked to you about, and then we have an activity about the discussion activity on the study tools. I want you to read through what we talked to with the flashcards and different types of studies, and then just have some reflection on it. Again, don't spend too much time on that. Just think about, it's really about, I want you to prepare, how do you study for the semester? Like, do you have a place you study? Do you like to go to the cafe? Do you, do you put on a candle? Do you make some, I put a crystal in my hand sometimes. How do you do, what do you do to make your study as comfy as possible and as focused as possible? That's really why I do this. So you have a little time to think about it before we really start. And then a discussion on understanding concepts. I put a few concepts on the first couple lectures there that I want you to really understand. One of them is this concept of homeostasis, like the body and the inside is always the same temperature, even if the outside is freezing cold or friggin' hot. And the body has ways to make sure the inside is not feverish, even if it's 100 outside. And so we'll talk about concepts like that I want you to just think through a little bit on your own. And discussions are such that I don't need you typing, although that's okay. But for me, typing can be really grueling and fear-provoking. And so you're also okay making a video. It's no problem. That's, again, a place where you can use the phone and just shoot a selfie video and have little notes and say, this is whatever. And then, you don't have to worry about all the grammar and all that stuff the same way, because also lots of us, if English is second, third language, mine's a third, hello. We want to have it be as easy on those fronts as possible for you, because we're learning anatomy. We're not an English class. And so audio is okay, video is okay. Of course, the normal way is totally okay. Some things are, draw a picture and upload the picture. And so I'm enjoying and welcoming creativity. You don't have to, but please, feel free. So that's the understanding concepts. After week 3, those go away when we have much more terminology. Then we have this first language of anatomy, is a little coloring labeling. I briefly touched on that. Just go in that. Again, it's in your material. If you buy it, you can download it. You can annotate it on the computer or on the tablet. Your choice. And then we have a health kit number 1 that I'm doing. And health kit number 1, again, I got to leave it to go in and I keep forgetting. All right, health kit number 1 is a lifestyle assessment. So when this again started with the pandemic, but it got okay. At first I thought they're going to fire me over doing this stuff, but they didn't. Because I want to integrate the anatomy into your real life. And one question is this question of wellness. I'm a chiropractor, so they talk about wellness the whole time. And I'm thinking, well, that's kind of cheesy. But when we actually go a little deeper into it, it's about how do I feel today? And they have a term of that, it's called morbidity. And when I asked this guy who was Corporate Council of America CEO, I had this luck over the years. You meet people over the years if you're in the business. And he is the guy who did the biggest corporate America place, who brought wellness and health to corporations in the 90s. And he said, yeah, what is morbidity? Why do I care about morbidity? And he said, it's like you go visit your grandchild, or your grandchild comes visit you. It's like you're stuck at home or you can move. It's not that you're dead. It's just you really feel lousy or you feel good. And then the discussion, and that was actually his discussion in a corporate America wellness talk, goes into what can I change to make sure I feel as okay as possible today. And then it goes right into talking about what we eat kind of stuff, our chemical environment, how we think, how stressed we are, what we feel, our emotional, spiritual environment, and then also how we move, how we exercise, all of that kind of environment, how we sit, and all that posture, all that kind of stuff. And so those are the 3 pillars. And then somewhere else I found, and then adopted it, an assessment that looks at 7 aspects of health, of lifestyle, of what's my posture, what's my exercise, what's my food intake, my digestion, that kind of stuff. And you rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, shitty and great, and that gives you then a score, a self-rating score. And so I figured, hey, that might be interesting. So I started doing that. So we have that in here. As you go down, you can see that right in here. So those are the 7 things, and you can go through those yourself, or we can talk about it too in class. I know we're running out of time a little bit. Sorry. And then I also then the next question is, well, yeah, okay, we have a score. What are we going to do about it? We feel shitty. How are we going to feel better? Well, we're going to change some habits potentially. And so then I came to this guy who talks about creating routines. His name is Duhigg. He was from MIT, but really it's all about the reward system. It's like, if you want to create a routine, a habit, you got to give yourself a reward. You got to prepare yourself to do it, give yourself a reward. And so I put a little bit of stuff in part 2 about that. And then what I did is an activity where I want you to reflect on one thing that you want to change, make one, that you can talk to people about. And write about and think through how to do that. Like think of the reward system with that one thing. And then thirdly, we're going to have also a health challenge that we're going to do for 3 weeks, each day, 5 days a week, to sort of, work on our own, but sort of collectively. And what I chose to work on is one thing from the activity. So like a 30-minute walk a day, exercise. One from the chemical, drinking sufficient water each day, 2 quarts. The literature seems to be that's about right. Or working on the mental, and then that came up with meditating or praying or mindfulness something 10 minutes a day. And so I have these 3 activities, and I want you to choose one of them to do for the next few weeks. We can start when you choose it, but we officially start next Monday with that, and follow that. And then after the 3 weeks, we go through the lifestyle assessment again and see if any of the scores changed. And I do it as a group activity because it has shown, of course, that it helps us to be sort of doing some things together. And then, I also have we also have a class, so it's a little bit more reason to do it. And so it's been very interesting how, after doing it, how, like with the water, for example, people start snacking less and the skin clears up and things like that. And it's been interesting just to do it sort of consistently with us every time I start the semester. And again, if you're not interested too much in it, you just go with water or with, something you should be doing anyway, or it would be good for us to do anyway. But generally, it's been a very positive experience. Of course, I'm going to do all of them because I'm going to make texting groups once you choose, and then I'm going to encourage you with some text, and I want you to sort of engage, to encourage each other to, hey, how's your water drinking going today? Or, I just finished my 2 quarts or whatever it is. Just, a couple times a week, give each other some encouragement and doing it. And then at the end again, do another lifestyle assessment, and then have everything sort of tracked. I have a habit tracker here. You don't have to use that. You can download it here. But you just, you see here, you just mark what your routine that you're doing from up here. And then you say, oh, I did it day 1. How it make me feel. Or sometimes you don't worry about how it make you feel, because sometimes we just got to do things and get a little bit away from always super involved in the feeling. Sometimes that can be a little too much, but I have it here because I do think some reflection is helpful. Maybe not every time. Anyway, and then for after you've done through that, down here it tells you what I want uploaded. And then these are the 3 things. I want you to upload the initial score of the lifestyle. I want you to upload what habit, reflect a little bit, and then what your routine you're going to do for the 3 weeks. And then that's it for the week. And that was plenty, wasn't it? The Padlet, I already talked about that. Okay, great. All right. So now, any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
About the test dates. Are those published anywhere?
No, because I'm still finishing up. But as soon as I haven't finished up, I will publish them. How would I'm thinking of putting them into the syllabus timeline is. I can also make an announcement. Would you like me to do that as well when I have them?
Yeah, that would be great. I just have to. We're doing our vacation
Yeah,
time at work, and it would be helpful for me to know I can plan my vacation around test time, just to
absolutely. Yeah,
have more time to
that's
study.
no. That's one thing that's on my agenda for today to finalize those dates. Thank you. Any other question or comments?
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
Um, the science booklets that you mentioned, do we need to purchase anything for lab, like for example, lab coats or a lab manual?
Wait, say that one more time. Do
Do we
we
need
need
to
it?
purchase anything for the lab in person nowadays, like
No.
a lab coat or lab manual?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I'm actually still working on some lab activities that I add, and I'll bring stuff in for that. You don't have to purchase anything on that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other question? Oh, look, there's some chats.
One more thing, I'm sorry.
No problem. Yeah, I'm here.
Can you go over again the material for the class?
The
Billy
booklets?
said there's no book.
Mm-mm.
So did you mention something about purchasing material or?
Yeah, I mean, you can always use, an anatomy physiology text, and I can guide you in what you would want to use. But my text booklets that sort of go along with the course that I've created, those I have with me in the classroom or in my office, actually, too. I'm also in Oakland on Saturdays working in my office, or I'm in Walnut Creek in my home office where we can also get them, or I can even ship them to people. I just don't have it officially in the bookstore at this point.
Oh, okay.
And they're not fully mandatory. They're suggested to get. You can see how it goes without. And also, if you want suggestions for, let's say you take a Bio 2 class later, we can talk about which book they most likely use. Things like that.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes.
Would there be a lot of like group activities, group graded activities?
In lab?
Yes.
The dissections likely will be on the tables, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we are meeting this Wednesday for lab, right?
Good point. We are meeting Wednesday. We are not meeting today.
Okay.
So if people who are in the section for today want to come Wednesday, that's totally cool. Number one, we have enough leeway that you can flip if you need a flip. Just let me know what you're doing so I know, and if it's too much, I can maneuver it. And if you just want to come get the booklets, that's also fine. So I have them on Wednesday in Merritt, and then Saturday I'm on Pill Hill, downtown Moore, Oakland, and otherwise I'm in Walnut Creek if you're living out this way. In case, just text me. Anybody else?
So, address for the lab. How would we get that?
I will be sending instructions. It's in Science Building at Merritt, Science 210, down at the base, at the first floor. But I'll send instructions out as we approach Wednesday.
Okay.
I usually text it, I announce it, and I send it through Canvas email when I do things. If you do not receive text from me, text me because you might have a wrong number or a different number on the official school thing that I then text to, and it might not be the right number. At this point, you should all have received the text. And sorry if somebody's here from Merced, I'll be right there. Okay, sorry about that. We got a next one coming up at 11. Anybody else has a question? And if it comes up, just shoot me a text, and I'll be here for you. So don't worry. Yes, the classes are mandatory, but well, maybe you want to do Wednesday, but the school, sorry, I'm reading a text, talk about classes. The classes are mandatory at this point. The labs are, it's by school decrees, not that we can do anything about it. It's just they do require us that the classes that are transferable to a higher institution are in person if they're in-person labs. But I'm happy to work with you around as much as I can. And again, if you need a flip from Monday to Wednesday, we can handle that. All right? Anybody else? And Samsung, just text me outside too if you need to talk to me about it. There's no name. It just says Samsung, the one who texted.
No.
Okay. No, it's not a lab online course anymore. All right. Good. Anybody else?
Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Hafsa. I really appreciate all of your detailed texts and everything. I was really nervous about this, but you made this very approachable. So,
oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be in your class. Thank you so much.
I'm excited having you all too. And thank you for also giving me feedback because I try to make it so it's as we don't need to be worried. We want to learn about our body. It's very cool stuff.
Yeah. I'm a teacher. So from one teacher to another, I see you. Okay. Take care.
You too. That's good. That's good.
Hello,
right,
I have a question.
Guys. Okay.
It was me, the one who asked on the. Give me a second, Corey. Max asked online. No, so you're saying Monday and then there's a Wednesday class. Is there a Monday lab? Because I'm for the Wednesday lab. So what's Monday? I'm confused.
There is you're either in a Monday section or the Wednesday section. So the lab is so it's just once a week, and so it's the same lab on Monday and on Wednesday.
Oh, okay. I thought it was something else. I was confused. Okay.
Yeah,
great.
yeah. It's not and, it's or. So
okay, gotcha.
But that also means if you have to flip once, you can do that. All right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else before we close out?
Question. So for the Monday people that are not attending today because it's a holiday, do we have to attend on Wednesday or until Monday?
Next Monday is okay. You can come Wednesday if you want for just getting the material or the class if you want to be part of it, but you don't have to.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Well, if not, we're going to close it out. And if you have any questions, you just text me and I'll be right here for you. Okay? That's my job today particularly. Make sure you get into Canvas. I know you can't open stuff yet, but yeah, that's a little bit of an oopsie. But just make sure you can get in, and if you can't, then connect with me that we can get on that right away. All right? Good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Merci. Have a wonderful day. Go
Bye-bye.
outside.
Thank you.
Breathe some air.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.